latest broadcast of the University of Dutch. And my name is Dirty Dutch, has been for a long time. And I'm joined here by my co-host, the man I nicknamed Dr. John. How you doing, Dr. John?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Dutch?
Hey, who did that? Who?
Larry Zabisco.
Okay, that's right. He did it. So, but and I gave you that name a long time ago because of the musician in New Orleans, Dr. John. I can't remember his last name, but a classic musician. I was a big fan of his, and since your name was John, I just transferred the name. You kind of like the name now, right, Dr. John?
I'm getting used to it. I like it. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Does anybody call you Dr. John?
Just a few people I just know through Twitter and stuff basically say Dr. John, but nobody in my personal life.
Hey, folks, you tuned into a really good episode, I think, today of the University of Dutch. I'm going to talk just a little bit, John. I want you to help me out. I want you to throw your thoughts in here. Did you see the inauguration?
I only saw parts of it. I didn't see the whole thing.
So you didn't watch it live or anything?
Nope.
Okay, the part you saw, what did you think about it?
It was, exactly what you thought he would say. A little bit generic. Obviously, he's just reading off the teleprompter, and his speech is pre-written and stuff. So I don't know. I didn't think one way or another. Wasn't moved by it or anything like that. Didn't think it was great, but I guess it was okay.
Did you think? And now his message was unity, and let's all come together.
Yep.
And let's all be happy and let's be a family. Well, I think it's a little late in the game for that. After all this stuff has gone on, I mean, I don't think some people just don't like him. Some people, they hated Trump. They all should be happy that Trump is gone because they tried 4 years to run him off. And yeah, he was a goof. He did, but he was entertaining. But he did get things done. People will argue with me, well, what did he get done? Well, he got a lot of stuff done, really. He really, really did. I don't have time to go through it. But he published, I think it's like 20 or 30 pages of just the stuff that he did. I mean, that never got publicized, and I wonder why.
Right.
Because the media, they were hell-bent for leather to get him out of office. They tried to impeach him. They tried to do all these things. And even on his way out is the worst president we've ever had. And, well, I don't buy that stuff. I really don't. I think I've seen a lot of worse presidents, but
yeah, I could think of two. I could think of two right off the bat that just happened before him. But yeah, okay.
Well, hey, Obama didn't do nothing really. He got
he was just a nothing.
Some health care that didn't work.
But Bush was horrible. Bush is the worst ever, I think.
Bush was. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do anything at all.
He was awful. Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of Hillary Clinton. But Bill wasn't too bad as president. He actually got stuff done.
The economy was booming. Yep.
Between blowjobs, he got a lot of stuff passed. And I mean that takes a lot of effort to do that. I mean,
but you got to get past that. You got to get
once you get past that. And the people acted like that's the worst thing. And even when it was going on, they tried to impeach him, but they didn't impeach him. Tried to impeach him for that. They tried to impeach him for lying to Congress. Which he did lie because he said he didn't do anything. But anyway, Bill, I could put up with Bill because he at least had some sense. But listening to Biden, I listened to his speech. It wasn't the worst speech I'd ever heard. And he tried. I will say this. I think he is trying. I'm not totally against him.
Right.
But I did wake up this morning without the media beating me to death over what Trump did yesterday. Oh, he did this and he did this, and let's get this sound bite. And what do you think there? And oh my God, let's run him off. He's worse than Satan. And I mean, how long can you ring that bell before he just falls on his own weight? Boom, it's just gone. But anyway, Trump gave a speech yesterday too.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't called. It wasn't aired by any of them. I think Fox aired it later. But none of them aired the speech, which brings me to another point. What we saw 2 weeks ago in the Capitol, they called it an insurrection. Well, and they can call it anything they want to call it, but it was allegedly to them a takeover of the American democracy. Even Nancy Pelosi said that we came very close to losing our democracy. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, 500 out of work Uber drivers can really cause 330 million people to lose their whole system of government. Isn't that what we got troops for? But what happened this past week that nobody's really talking about was a coup. And that was the takeover by big tech like Google, Twitter, Facebook, the major news divisions, NBC, ABC, and they're just withhold news. So you won't know what is going on. And shutting down Parler. I mean, Twitter kicking Trump off. You know, if Twitter and the mainstream media can silence the president of the country, and when they silenced him, he was still the president. If they can silence him, there's nobody they can't silence.
Yep.
And whether you believe he needed to be silenced or not, that's not the point. The point is we're supposed to have freedom of speech, which they didn't give to him. They gave to him up to the point they just got so mad at him about. And do you think he was the main problem with the break-in at the Capitol?
No.
Did he tell them to break in?
Nope. Didn't.
He told them to march down to the Capitol and let their voices be heard and applaud and salute the Republican senators and people that helped them. I didn't hear one word about breaking in. Did you?
Nope. Did not.
But they're mad at him. They've already impeached him in the House. They're going to try to take it to the Senate. And if they're not careful, they're going to make Trump a martyr that they'll never get over. You see what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Actually, I think if he got shot in the street, they'd celebrate it. Now, what's that tell you about our American society and the shape it's in? And this is all brought on, and I don't care if people believe or agree with me or not. It's all brought on by social media. Everything. Now, when you're talking about Twitter, I quit Twitter. I'm just about basically through with that. Because you can't go on there because you can't hear nobody's going to agree with me. It's all a bunch of liberals telling each other how great they are and virtue signaling to each other. I don't want to live like that. I don't. Okay. Do I have anything else I want to say about that? Oh, wait a minute. One more thing.
Yep.
Did you hear Katie Couric a couple of days ago talk about deprogramming or reprogramming Republicans?
Yes. Scary stuff if you think about it. Yeah.
No, that sounds like 1935, 1936 Nazi Germany before Hitler came to power. And she wants to take those radicalized Americans out to FEMA camps and reprogram them. Wait a minute. What about the radicalized Muslim terrorists in this country? Do we try to deprogram them? Have you ever heard that?
Right. Yeah.
We don't do that. But
we don't. Yeah.
Let's take our own American people out. And hey, the guy at PBS said that. Even take their kids away from them, take them and put them into camps. And I don't know if he was kidding or not. He may just be nuts. And he said, have them watch PBS all day long.
I hope he was kidding. Jeez.
Now that's not
Jesus
deprogramming
Christ.
you. That's damn cruel and unjust punishment to watch that crap all day long.
Right.
My God. But anyway, that's my rant for the day. And we'll get on to some wrestling stuff. You had a quote you wanted to read me from an interview by Joe Rogan.
Yes.
And it was by The Undertaker. So read that to me and I'll tell you what I think about it.
Yes, so the Undertaker basically was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's not a fan of current wrestling. He says in that era of guys, he's talking about old school wrestlers and old school guys. In that era of guys, those were men. You go into a dressing room nowadays, and it's a lot different. I remember walking into my first real dressing room, and all I saw was some crusty fucking men. Half of them had guns and knives in their bags. Shit got handled back then. Now you walk in, there's guys playing video games and fucking making sure that they look pretty. It's evolution, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I just like those eras, man. I liked when men were men.
Well, I don't have anything to add to that other than total agreement. Because
Yep.
years ago, and this I'm going to talk about this a little bit later for the rest of the podcast. Some real men that he's talking about going into dressing room, and he's talking 30 years ago.
Hmm.
You walk in there and you didn't start no shit in there. Because these guys, they were quiet. They'd sit around and you wouldn't be playing no game or you wouldn't be running your mouth and talking politics because they'd shut you up real quick. Because, and he's right, you'd walk in there. Some guys they'd have 45s, 38s. They would make sure that the safety was always on. And here's a story I heard a long time ago, and it's about a gun, and it's about Johnny Valentine. Do you remember the old Alaskan? I think it's Jay York. I think
Hmm.
you remember him.
Yep.
Well, Jay York had asthma, so when he would go to the ring, and he would come back, he'd be wheezing. He wanted air, and I don't know exactly what asthma is, but uh, it's a breathing problem, correct?
Yeah, affects your lungs. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
when he would come back, he would grab his inhaler and he'd hit a few hard shots of whatever that is, medicine, I guess. Well, Johnny Valentine was the king of the rivers. So what he did one night, Jay York went to the ring and he got into his bag and he found his inhaler. And I think he put some lighter fluid in it.
Oh shit.
He didn't pour it out and just put lighter fluid, but he put lighter fluid on top of it and closed it back up. So when he came back, he was wheezing, and he grabbed this. Now I don't know if this is true, but I was told it's as true as the day is long. He grabbed his inhaler, and of course, as soon as that lighter fluid hit his lungs, he exploded. Now he was almost out of control, but he had another one, and he got the other one, and he got it under control. But it took about 5 minutes when he was walking around and couldn't get air.
Wow. Scary.
And Valentine thought it was kind of funny. And Jay York didn't know what happened. Somebody told him what happened. So he couldn't work for like a week. So when he went to work about a week later, he walked into the dressing room and he walked in with a sawed-off shotgun. And he saw Valentine's bag sitting right in the middle of the floor. And boom, he blew that bag to smithereens. Of course, I don't know what he had in there, but, it made a big hole in the floor and it hit the walls and it was loud because, those tile dressing rooms. And he looked at Valentine. He said, if you ever even talk to me again or do that again, he said, that will be you.
Wow.
And I asked who was telling me, I said, did Valentine mess with him again? He said, no, never messed with him again. So that was one of the things when you mentioned that guns in your bag.
Yep.
York had a gun in his bag that night. He didn't use it. He didn't know who did it till somebody told him. But you would go into, and that was the type of guys that I broke into the business with. and Undertaker came after me, so that's what he broke in with them too. But they were like less uh, like armed then when he broke in than when I broke in, because and I'm going to name some names of guys that how the business used to be. Do you remember a guy named Killer Carl Cox?
KKK, yes.
What a beautiful man, great guy. You didn't mess with him either. He wasn't all muscled up. He was about 6'2". He was about 260. He didn't have, he didn't have, if you just looked at him, he just looked like a regular guy, but, kind of big. But nobody messed with him. Nobody. I remember I was in West Palm Beach with him one time, and he was going to the ring. And when he went to the ring and jumped in, and he did a run in. And on the way out, he was looking like this on the way back and going pop, pop, pop. I looked out there. There's 3 guys laying out there knocked out. And he didn't throw the punch maybe this far. He just had a jab. Bam. And he'd hit him. And he'd hit him with the left, and he'd hit him with the right. And he'd just keep going. But those were the type of guys that was there when I broke into business. Now, and like Undertaker says, he says, now you see guys playing video games and trying to look pretty. But let me ask you, John, what did you enjoy better, the old school type of wrestling or what they're doing now?
Old school times 10, a million times better, like the old school guys. Just, realistic guys, believable guys, some of them larger than life. You just believed in them way more than these guys today. You're right. I mean, I don't care if they're playing video games or whatever. They're just not really as believable today as they used to be. And to be honest, a lot of them are way smaller than they used to be. And I'm not saying they're not in great shape and stuff, but there's so many guys that are just so small today. Like Killer Carl Cox, if he was around today, 6'2" isn't like a giant. He'd be one of the bigger guys today, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a giant then. He was like a regular guy back then. Yeah. Let me tell you another guy that was tough is Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch, and I'm gonna see if I can find this tape for you, John. Mm-hmm. It was Dick Murdoch and Killer Carl Cox in a match in Japan. And if you just start watching it, say you don't know a damn thing about professional wrestling, you start watching this match and you start believing these guys are trying to beat each other. It's not a bunch of punches. It's just a lock up. And they pushed around for 2 or 3 minutes. But you can feel the crowd. They're all in it. I don't care. Whatever they did, they were focused on. That's what wrestling crowds used to be. They used to be focused on every move. Now you could jump through the ceiling. And they say, oh, well, that's good. What you got next? See, I think they've taken the golden goose and cooked it twice. And I don't think there's any way to go back to it. Even MMA, it's almost the same stuff now. They get up for the big fights, but for the underneath the preliminary fights, they don't get up.
Nope.
But back when I started, they would get up for those matches because we didn't have 900 matches on the card. We had 5 matches on the card. But the names I'm bringing up today are not everyday names. I mean, the old school fans, they will recognize them. But the young school fans, they can go look them up and they can find these guys. But these were legends. They're still legends to me. Here's another guy. You ever heard of Sputnik Monroe?
Oh, yeah, Memphis legend.
And a lot of people don't know this about Sputnik. And I was reading about him the other day. Sputnik probably did more for race relations in Memphis, Tennessee, than probably anybody else except Martin Luther King, probably. Because I remember, and this is a big story about Sputnik. I don't know if they were in the Ellis Auditorium, But the auditorium, they had a balcony section, and the black people couldn't sit down on the lower floor. They wouldn't allow them. But Sputnik, the black people loved Sputnik. He was supposed to be a big heel, but they loved him to death. So they would come and talk to him about the problem, and he went and he made almost a press conference, and he told the wrestling promoter, who was Bert somebody, and I guess Nick Goulas, that if they didn't allow black people on the main floor, he was never wrestling in Memphis again.
Wow.
And they repealed it. So he became a hero to those people in their own town. So, and Sputnik, he did the strut, and he was probably the first one. I think he did the strut. Jackie Fargo did the strut too.
Yep.
And of course, they all stole that from Buddy Rogers. But since they came down south with it, a lot of people had never seen Buddy Rogers, so they were like associated with it. But talking about tough guys in this business, you know who else was a tough guy? Dick Slater.
Yes, heard many stories. Yes.
Dick Slater, great football player, University of Tampa, and he got in the business with Eddie Graham, and he was a friend of Mike Graham, and he got in the business, and he was just tough, a tough guy, just tough off the street. Here's a story I heard about him. He was wrestling, and you may have told me, I think, about him and Bob Orton Jr. Did you tell me that story?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, Dick Slater had a match with Bob Orton Jr., and they got into a big scuffle or a disagreement. So they come back in the dressing room, and Junior sat down, and the dad was watching him. And he says, "What was that about?" He said, "Dad, that friggin' Slater, this, that, and the other." And Slater come in, and he said, "Hey, you want to continue this?" And Orton got up. Bad mistake, I heard. I think Slater drilled him, drug him into the toilet, and pushed his head in the toilet a couple of times and left him in there. And then come out, and he looked at Bob Orton Sr. He said, "You want some?" And Sr. said, "Hey, I'm not in it."
Right.
He said, "Whatever happened, that's between you and him." So, but Slater was tough. You know who else? Another one was good. Did I say Slater played football at the University of Tampa?
No, you didn't.
Well, I'm not sure of that, but who I met was Paul Orndorff.
Yes.
He was another tough son of a gun. But he's not so far back that we're talking about years and years ago. Orndorff, you've heard the story about him and Vader, right?
Oh, yeah.
Vader he's a bully. He'd come in there and he's so big and, F this and F that and F you and blah, blah, blah. And I think Orndorff, he just took enough of it. And he just beat the living shit out of him. He just started popping it, pow, 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 pow. And, if Vader, he couldn't get to you, he couldn't do nothing. So he just beat the living crap out of him and left him. You know who else was a tough guy? Rick Rude.
I believe it.
Rick Rude, I heard from the Minnesota guys, and this was from the Road Warriors and, all those guys who come out of Minnesota. Rude was the raunchiest one of them. I saw Rude hit a guy in Memphis one time, one punch. He just laid him out and just kept going. Because Rude, he was about 6'4" and kind of lanky. But when he straightened one out on you, that punch, you were gone.
Oh, yeah.
You ever hear, and I'm going to take you back. I wrote these names down. You ever heard the name John Foley?
Yes. Wasn't he a guy that they would basically, he was a shooter down in Florida? He was the guy that they put the up and coming guys to see what they had, and he basically would stretch them, kind of doing the old Stu Hart, going to bring them down and to the ring and stretch them and see what they got.
Well, he did that. He did Stu Hart's too. So if a guy said, "Oh, I can beat you wrestlers," oh, really? You think so? Why don't you come down? They invited him down. The idiot went,
Yep.
and they'd have some young guys in there, and they looked good, and they were all muscled up, but they were younger. Then they'd put John in the lineup. There's about 4 of them. I mean, the other 3 guys could handle themselves, but John, he'd be up there smoking a cigarette, and they'd ask the guy, "All right, which one do you think you can beat?" "Oh, I can beat him over there." "John, I can beat him. Come on, let's go." John would beat that son of a bitch half to death because John was from a part of England, the UK, called Wigan, where they trained all those shooters. And John would actually stretch them. He would actually pull like shoulder joints out of place. And he'd make them cry. And when they'd get down there and they said, "Now you want to apologize for running that big fat mouth?" And my John has the hold on him. And the guy would be crying, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." And then they'd tell him to get out of there. Bob Roop used to do that in Florida too.
I thought so. Yeah.
He would take them into the ring. And I have a tape of that somewhere. This one guy said he could beat the wrestlers and this, that, and the other. And I used to ride a lot with Bob. But Bob has a little bit of a, I mean, he would punish those guys. Almost, if I'd have actually been in there when I saw the tape, I would have actually said, "Bob, let's let the guy go. He's crying in front of his wife." So, but he'd just beat the crap out of him. See, that's why a lot of guys who had actual wrestling amateur experience, Eddie Graham loved those guys. That's why he could always, you could always, if you knew anything about wrestling, you could always go and work in Florida. Because he wanted tough guys. I don't know how in the hell I made it down there, but But
Yep.
but John was tough. Here's another tough guy, Adrian Street.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, Adrian, he had to be tough because he had that. A lot of people thought he had a gay gimmick, but he really didn't, because he had a girl in the corner. He acted effeminate.
Yep.
But he was so entertaining. He was. But a lot of guys would go in the ring and try to take that gimmick for a shoot to Adrian would have enough of it, and he'd beat the crap out of him. He never threw a punch. He never did this. He just took them down and wrapped them up. Then he talked to him while he had them down there. I've seen him do that several times to guys. Guys come out and his shoulder's hurting, and I said, "Well, what'd you piss him off?" "I don't know what's the matter with you."
Yep.
Well, don't do it anymore. I mean, it was. Let me tell you another tough guy. You ever heard of this guy? Well, I know you've heard of his brother. You've heard of Missouri Mauler?
Yep.
Cantankerous. And actually scary. You ever been around him?
No, never met him.
I mean, he was very, very opinionated on a lot of things. And if he didn't like it, you knew about it. And I've seen him not beat up other wrestlers, because other wrestlers had more sense. But I've seen him get some fans, and he would just rip them a new one. And his brother, Jody Hamilton, he was another rough one. You know Jody?
Yes.
Jody.
Yes, I do.
See, that was one of the first teams I ever saw when I broke in. And you're talking about guns. Jody'd have 2 guns. Tom Ernesto, the other assassin,
Yep.
He'd have 2 guns. So, because they've almost had to use those guns a couple of times.
Oh, they would cause some riots, those 2.
Well, people would just, they were scary under that hood. They really were. Especially back in the day. They wouldn't be scary today so much, because everybody thinks it's all fun and games. So if you took some of these guys today back, to when Taker started or to when I started, they would say, "My God, these people want to kill you." No kidding, because you had them in that frame of mind. They didn't know if it was real or not, but if it got real enough, they didn't even debate it no more. They wanted to kill you.
Right.
And they would come after you. They would throw stuff at you. They would hit you with sticks or whatever they had. But what you had to be really afraid of when you got in a cluster was a knife coming in from the side. You never thought of that, did you?
No, but I've
No,
heard stories that a
no,
lot of knives and stuff,
yeah,
so a lot of craziness.
yeah. If you got bunched up in a crowd, even with the cops around you, and a guy, say if he had like a switchblade, not but one that goes straight out, and it didn't have to be long. It could just be boom. He could stick you, and you never know who did it. Stick gone, but you're hurt. So, but you take some of these young guys today. If that happened to them one time, they'd quit the business. They
For
they
sure.
they'd run away. And I do agree with Taker said he didn't watch a lot of wrestling now.
Yep.
I don't either. I don't watch it, and which may explain some of the ratings some of these shows are getting. What is Raw getting now? Like 2 million
Mm.
viewers, which is I think
A,
is actually
a little bit
fabulous.
less.
Really,
A
well,
little bit less. 1.8.
I actually find that astonishing. Really, that they even get that much. NXT gets what 750,000 something 600.
I think they average 650,000. Yeah.
And what does a All Elite do? That's the same
About
thing.
800 about 800,000 they average. Maybe a little bit more. Yep.
But if you considering how big the market is, that's still not doing that much. I mean,
It's nothing.
Kardashians gets how much? How many viewers they get? You think
Oof. In the millions, I would imagine.
1.5 million? They don't get much more than that. I don't think.
I think a couple million. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I thought they were getting like 2 million because they kept that show going for a while because they were getting some strong ratings.
What does Divas get?
Total Divas, I think they were topping out somewhere around 1 million at one point. I don't know what they get now. I think it's significantly lower now.
1 million viewers for the Divas?
They were. I think it's somewhere around 500,000. But when they first came out with that show, I think it was getting somewhere around 1 million.
Mm-hmm. What does the Miz get?
Less than 1 million. I think they said it was like 900,000 an episode, but cause I remember it was more than AEW
Okay,
and
so
NXT.
so that just shows you how much WWE has expanded. Wrestling is not their primary product, I don't think, anymore. It's content for their network, of course. But they got the Divas and they got the Miz. What else they got?
Total Bellas too, which is another spin-off of the Diva show.
Yeah. So if they're doing like 800,000 to 1 million, I mean that's doing more than AEW. Any of those shows are doing.
Yep.
And how many people in their network? WWE.
I think they said right now it's like 1.8 million people are subscribed, or maybe it's 1.7 million people are subscribed to the network at $9.99 a month
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how much money they're taking in.
per
What
month.
is
Yeah.
that? That's like 100 million a month.
Oh, it's
Is
a
it that?
lot.
Is
Let's
it?
do the math.
Well,
Let's figure it out. Let's see right here. It is $17 million a month.
oh, okay. How did I get 100 million?
I don't know.
Well, you said 1 million. Oh, I see. That's right.
Yeah,
A million.
1.7 million.
At
It's times
10.
times
That'd
10
be.
bucks. Yeah.
Okay. Then multiply that by 12. And what is
Yes.
that? 200 something million.
Let's see, times 12. $204 million a year on the network.
Yep. Well, now correct me if I'm wrong. Did the WWE just come out like I don't know 2 or 3 weeks ago and said they made more money last quarter than they did before?
It was basically a record. Yeah, the quarter they broke a record. I guess because they weren't touring and losing money from doing the touring, plus the Saudi Arabia money, plus the TV deals, they ended up making more money than they ever did.
Unbelievable.
Crazy. During the pandemic of all things, where they're not having live shows and they're not traveling, I guess that's beneficial to them.
Well, it's beneficial to them, but let's look at a city that the WWE is going to come to. Say they're going to come to Nashville, and they're going to draw, let's say, I don't know, 10,000 people. Okay, they got to fly the people in, so so the airlines are making money. They're going to rent rooms for all their employees, which is probably at least 50, 60 rooms.
Yep.
At least. And they're going to rent cars. So you got all your car rental place making money. And then, of course, your restaurants or whatever. And then the building rentals and the setup for that, your lighting people, they all get. See, that cost a lot of people money, except WWE. They saved all that money, and they end up making more money than when they're touring. How is their merchandise doing?
I heard that the merchandise is doing okay right now. I didn't hear anything negative about it. I thought they were holding strong with merchandise as far as that side of the business was concerned.
Well, do you think it will ever go back to like it was 2 years ago?
No. Not if they're making so much money doing it this way. No.
Okay, how is NXT making money?
That I don't know. I always heard, and it's got to be still true, they have to be a loss leader where they're just doing it to enhance the talent, get them better, but they know it's going to lose money because I don't know if USA is actually paying NXT for that spot on television or not.
Well, I'm sure they are. I mean, why would they just be if they're selling commercial spots? Is that an hour show or a 2 hour show?
2 hours.
Yeah, they're getting paid for that. Vince don't do nothing for nothing. Believe me. So I don't know what they're getting, and that may be just a work deal just to get them on TV. So what is the deal with AEW with TNC? 75 million over 2 years or what?
I thought they were getting like 60 or no, I think it was 40 million a year for 5 years, I thought. But that really is going to cover most of the production costs. I know that's going to be less now because they've literally been staged in Jacksonville for this whole time. So now they're probably making a little bit of money off that deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like a great deal like WB, you know what I mean? Getting $1 billion or USA giving them 900 million. So I mean, I know AEW is less proven and they only have 800,000 viewers a week, but they're not really making a ton of money.
Well, let me ask you this. Hey, where are we going today? You know, we used to start at a spot and end up at a spot. Let's go today, Nashville to Louisville. So now we're coming back from Louisville. Okay. Well, let me ask you this, since we're on the way back. Hell, I forgot what I was going to ask now. What was we talking about?
You were going to say that you wanted to help AEW make some money, I think. Because they're not making any money, supposedly.
Okay, I know what it was now. What is the Saudi Arabia deal?
So they get, oh man, I forget the exact number, but it's like, I think it's like, I know it's like $1 billion deal over 10 years, and they have to go there twice a year, basically. So I don't know how that's working now with the COVID and the pandemic and not being able to travel over there and do the shows, but it was like some sort of $1 billion deal for 10 years, and they were going to do 2 shows a year.
Mm-hmm. And they were going to try to usher in the women's wrestling and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yes. Yep.
Was it the guy who's the head of the place? What's his name? Ben something or?
Oh, the Prince?
Yeah, the Prince.
Well, I forget. He's got like a nickname. MDF? Prince something. I forget. Is it MDF? I don't remember. I don't even remember.
And he was going to try to use the WWE show to elevate women in the culture because he was going to let them wrestle and he was going to let them do this. It was going to be a first, and because the government pays for this, correct?
Yep. And he was going to bring in also not only WWE, but they wanted to bring in all sorts of entertainment and acts and stuff. And really kind of turn it into a destination place for like vacationers and really get some outside people coming in and some tourists coming in.
Do they have gambling there?
That I don't know. I would guess yes, but I don't know
That
for sure.
that's what they need to do. Make it to Middle East Vegas.
Yep.
Why didn't you suggest that, John?
Yep. I'm going to. Yeah,
You
I'm
could have
stealing that idea.
you could have been a crown prince or something.
Yeah.
Crown
Damn.
Crown Prince John. See
Yeah.
what you could have done.
Forget about the oil. Let's go for the
Oh yeah,
gambling.
oh yeah. Screw the oil. But anyway, I agree with Undertaker comments about the WWE. I can't watch it.
He
And
also said that the guys today are soft. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
who's soft?
All the wrestlers today, Undertaker said, are soft.
Of course they're soft. Most of them had never been in a fight. And I've told you this on this show before that Cornette one day, he was talking to a group of them and to the trainees at NXT, and he asked, how many of you have been in a real fight? You know how many raised their hands?
Not many.
2.
Wow.
And one of them was a girl.
Hmm. Yep.
So if you've never been in a real fight, I mean, John, how many real fights you been in?
Oh, quite a few.
Me too.
Quite a few. Yep.
And they don't last long.
Nope.
I mean, it's, boom, 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 and usually it's over. I mean, with me, it don't take me that long to lay on the ground. I mean, I just go straight down and said, okay, I'm done, leave me alone. So, but, and when you get in a fight, that adrenaline starts flowing. But if you've never had that flowing, you don't know what it feels like. And it's not something you train for. It's going to be there automatically, or it should be. But so these guys are going to go out there and pretend to engage in a serious competition. And I was trying to watch some crap today, some independent guys, and this guy was leapfrog and do this and take the headlock. And I wish I was there. I'd have went out there and I'd slapped every one of them. I mean, I couldn't now, but I would before. Because I don't know who's training these guys. I really don't. And I agree with Taker. Taker was the guy you didn't mess with either. He didn't say much. I was in a bar with him one time, and we was in the back. And he said, I got to go to the little boy's room. So he was gone quite a while. And I said, I better go look for him. So as I walk up front, and I heard a commotion to my left. And I looked over there, and I saw all the bouncers there. And then I saw Mark. I went, what the fuck? And I run up to him. I said, what'd you do? He said, nothing. There's a guy laying there, knocked out. And I said, well, we got to go, buddy. We got to go. Took him out the door, and on the way to our car, we passed the cops coming in.
Wow.
And I threw him in the car. So, and I said, let's get out of here. And we took off to wherever hotel we was in or whatever. And I said, what the fuck was that about? He said, I don't know. He said, you wrestlers ain't so fucking tough. And he said he had this girl there, and he said, hey, I can whip your ass. He said, okay, leave me alone. And the guy reached up. He said, I just drilled him. The guy never saw it coming, and he's knocked out. Now, I don't know, I don't drink anymore, or hardly ever. But I don't think I ever drank enough back in those days, to really affect my mind that I could think I could whip a 6'10", 300-pound fucking guy.
Yes, that's just stupid. Yep.
I don't think I could get that drunk, which I never did. So anyway, we got any fan mail this week, John? Or do we have any fans at all anymore?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't get any fan mail, but I know we still do have fans. They do love you out there. I just wanted to bring up this point because Undertaker talked about in a recent documentary in, I guess it was early 87, obviously had to be brought before Brody died, obviously, but Brody in World Class fought Texas Red, who was Undertaker, was being managed by Paul Bearer. He said Brody, and the match is on YouTube and stuff too, Brody kicks the living shit out of Taker. I mean, he stiffs the hell out of him. But that's just one of the guys, old school guys that are tough, and Undertaker just took it And that would thank you, Mr. Brody. Thank you, thank you, Frank. And that's the end of it. Didn't cry or bitch or moan about it.
No, well, he told me about that. He said, that fucking Brody, he kicked me one time. He said, fuck, it'd been a field goal, it'd been a 50-yarder. But he said he kicked the shit out of me. And I said, you say anything? He said, no. He's because he respected Brody.
Yep.
See, that was a thing back in the day. Brody was a big son of a bitch too. And he didn't really mean it. He didn't mean anything by it. It was the way he worked. I was working with Tommy Dreamer one time, and I told him he hit me one time the hardest I'd ever been hit with a chair. The hardest. And I put my hand up to block it, and it still was the hardest. So imagine if I hadn't have put my hands up. He'd have knocked me into next week. And I remember what I did. I come off of him, and I raked his eyes. I said, stay right here. And he stayed right there, and he was bent over. And I picked the chair up, and it was kind of wobbly. He was in Memphis. And I hit him so hard. I mean, the chair was about to come apart anyway. I hit him so hard across the back, not in the head, that the chair flew apart.
Wow, nice.
And somebody said, well, what did Dreamer do? I said, he didn't do shit because I don't even think he noticed it. I said, that's just the way those damn fucking ECW guys work. They didn't give a shit. And I said, if somebody's going to hit you that hard, or you're going to hit somebody that hard, and they'd say, well, hell, that's just doing business. Hey, you got to watch them. Yep. But anyway, that's the way the business used to be. Nowadays, if you do that to a guy, I don't know what they do. They would scream and holler and, oh my God, he's trying to kill me. And I mean, but you're not supposed to hurt somebody. You're supposed to make it look good. And that was the art of the craft, to make it, see, back in those days, it looked like we were beating the shit out of somebody, and we weren't. Now, it looks like they're still beating the shit out of somebody, and they are. Yep. That's the difference. But listen, it didn't draw you any more money at all. If the story's not going to draw it, and the story you're telling not going to draw it, just working harder. It won't make you any more money. So anyway, listen, we're going to wrap this up today. I think I made my political beliefs known. Mm-hmm. And if somebody wants to cancel me, fine. I don't give a shit. And if you say, F Dutch Mantell, fuck him, blah, 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 I don't give a shit. I really don't. So we'll be back next week. And I may have a special guest for us next week, John.
Oh, I like this end of that.
What if I brought Donald Trump on here?
I would love it.
That would be a big coup, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Hey, we get all of them following us.
Yep. Or we get banned, or we get canceled.
Oh, we get canceled. Big as shit. I mean, I'm already about to cancel myself out anyway, just for damn being stupid. But yeah, you have to know what you're talking about to cancel me on that. Hey, folks, if you want to send me an email, dirtydutchmantell@gmail.com. And John, I want to talk about today. You know what's doing actually pretty good? My virtual tutoring classes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's actually doing pretty good. So, guys, if you want to get started in wrestling, or you've already started in wrestling and don't know what to do next, and you need some advice, whether you're a wrestler or whether you're a manager or whether you want to be a booker. I have a few guys, they want to say, how do you book? So I'm trying to tell them how to start. But there is no book on how to book. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%.
You ever done it, John?
Never. No.
You never wrote cards down?
Oh, like just fooling around as a kid. Yeah, it's funny because my mom's moving out. She's moving to to a new place, and she had like a bunch of my old stuff, and like I have a card. I think it's literally had to be from like '92 or something. It's like Vader versus Sting is the main event. Cactus Jack, but it's random. Like Cactus Jack is teaming with Sullivan or something. Like probably not Sullivan, but I forget who it was. But it was just so random the way it was done. But I remember Vader Sting was the main event for some reason.
You know who used to do that?
Tony Khan.
Probably.
Yeah.
But did he do that really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He
Eddie
called
Gilbert.
it Dynamite. That's why the show's called Dynamite. Because he used to literally write on a piece of paper, my Dynamite card. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. How did
Yep.
you know that?
I think he said it in an interview or something. I remember I heard it from him. He said it.
Uh-huh. Well, it makes sense.
Yep.
Because you can look at him and tell that he enjoys doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But you know who used to do that every week? Eddie Gilbert.
Oh, wow. Nice. Great booker. Yeah.
Eddie Gilbert would write, because Eddie Gilbert lived in Lexington, Tennessee, which was about halfway between Memphis and Nashville. So he got both TVs. And then they had a TV in Jackson, Tennessee that he got too. And then he got I think he got Continental out of Alabama too. So he got like 4 or 5 hours of different TV just sitting in Lexington. And he'd watch all those shows. Of course, his dad was a wrestler. His brother ended up being a wrestler. But
Yep.
he tried to gear his career more toward booking. But anyway, back to what I'm doing. If you need some help on your career and you want me to look at you and give you some advice, yeah, I can do it. It's dirtydutchmantell@gmail.com. And right now I'm doing a kid from California. I'm doing a kid from Canada. I'm doing a guy from the UK and one from South Africa. Crazy, huh?
Wow. That's awesome, though. Global.
Well, and what I do, I just go and it's just like this. Like it's one-on-one instruction. Like I'm talking to you, John, and you're the only one who can hear me, much like this podcast. but it's I think it's helped some guys. So if you know somebody who needs some help, because there are no training sessions now, you can't train anywhere.
Nope.
You can't go anywhere. You can't work any shows. So the virtual one-on-one session is the best you're going to do. So anyway, hopefully I'm going to come out in a couple of weeks with a T-shirt, University of Dutch T-shirt.
Love it.
And also I have the University of Dutch graduation diplomas. And you can get those by asking me about it at Dirty Dutch Mantell Gmail. Because I'll have you. It'll say University of Dutch. See it by? Did I show you one, John?
No. I got to get one of those.
Well, I'll send you one.
Nice.
Here it is. This is what it looks like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yep. Awesome.
That's not bad, right? And your name, that I would take this name out here, and your name would go right in there, and you could hang that right on the wall.
Yeah.
That's not a bad looking diploma, is it, John?
It's pretty cool. I like it.
I did it myself. University of Dutch, and you don't even need a student loan to come to.
Good call.
To go to the school. So anyway, listen, let's wrap it up to next week. Appreciate all you people tuning in. And if you see any homeless veterans on the street, stop and help them out, especially now during this virus. Everybody needs help, but especially those guys. Which brings another thing, John, before I go. COVID-19, they say that the infection rate is exploding. You know where it's not exploding?
No.
In the homeless communities.
Oh, interesting.
Explain that.
That's weird. It's unexplainable. That's weird.
I can't explain it. Because in LA, it's not, they're just not covered up with it for some reason. I don't know. That's crazy. This whole thing is crazy to me. So anyway, till next week, this is Dirty Dutch, along with the co-host, Dr. John, who did more work today than he's done in the past 6 months with me. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. So I want everybody to put your hand over your heart and in a loud, clear voice, say along with me, we the people. See you next week.